right, welcome. This is our third budget meeting. We have, after today, 2 more scheduled. Today we're going to start with the police department, and the chief's going to go over his budget. He's going to cover the SCORE jail facility. He's going to cover his department, as well as we have a drug fund or a drug investigative fund, and he's going to go over that. After that, we're going to move into Parks and Recreation, and Director Faber, he's going to talk about maintenance, trails, parks, and the cemetery he's going to present. I understand he also has some slides that are a little more exciting than our budget slides that we have here. So when we get to that point, we will defer to Director Faber to direct us to where those slides are so we can present them to you. With that, I would like to hand the meeting over to Chief Lee.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm going to start out with book number 1 and go through book number 1 in its entirety for police and move on to book number 2 so you're not switching back and forth.
We call them fat book and skinny book.
Skinny book.
Okay.
Little book and big book.
Small book, big book. Page 121 has the police department org chart on that. And again, just kind of giving an overview, divided up into 4 divisions: patrol, investigations, administrative services, and records. The org chart itself doesn't really specify individual specialty assignments. Under patrol, you see 64 officers. Some of those are patrol officers. Actually, most of them are. We do have designated spots for collision investigator officer, which is under traffic, community response team under administrative services. Well, let's go back to the other. We have mall officers, 2 mall officers, 2 canine officers. They're part of that 64. And a school resource officer, which is part of that 64. And that's an officer that we have assigned up to Mountain View High School. And it complements the 2 school resource officers that the school district pays for. And then traffic, we have dedicated guys on motors, a traffic car that handles nothing but collisions. And those are the folks that come out, get called out at night to come out and do fatality collisions and handle complaints. Animal controls under patrol, then investigations. We have major crimes, property crimes, special investigations, which is narcotics, and the task force detectives, crime analysts. And then CRT falls under administrative services, community response team. And then it says DARE. This was put in prior to DARE being removed and the school district taking over DARE for the for the foreseeable future. So that will be removed, and I'll note that a couple times in the budget. And then our MIT officer, is part of the administrative services, and then records covers the record specialist and 2 evidence techs. So that's kind of an overview of the org chart department.
Who instigated the DARE change?
It has been, I think many of the council may have been aware that going back probably over 10 years, we've looked at trying to move out of the DARE program. Probably in July, I got an email from Superintendent Kip Aaron on a Sunday, wanted to talk about it, and so I did follow up with that. Robin McCluskey had mentioned that she was interested in getting out of law enforcement and moving on to a different career. She's a DARE officer for the school district, taught outside the city limits, and she had spoken with Kip as well, and they thought that might be a good fit for the school district, serve the needs, and it also serves the needs and requirements of DARE, that it needs to be either a fully commissioned officer or a retired, and she is commissioned and now she's retired. And so it was offered to her, and so now they're trying to replace her position as a school resource officer.
So did the school district write a position description that, for instance, says as a commissioned or retired officer?
Write a description. It's part of the DARE curriculum that says what type of officer is able to teach DARE, and she's a commissioned officer. She's retired. She can fill that role.
No, as long as the school board wants to keep DARE going, they will have to have that kind of DARE officer.
Correct. And I know that initially I'd put it out to the area chiefs to see if they had anybody that was interested, and there were several other officers that had DARE experience as well, like at least one from Renton.
So are we still going to be funding that, or is the school district going to be funding all that?
The school district will be funding that, and you'll see reference to DARE and DARE supplies, and we'll just erase that from the budget.
Rich, I've worked with the going to be new DARE officer, and she's at the end of her career of doing really significant, aggressive law enforcement. So she's looking forward to going back and working with children and doing the DARE program. She will be an absolute asset to our kids who are really familiar with her, and for the school district. It's a good move in relationship to her.
I agree it's a good move as long as the school board remains committed to supporting it. But as you know, many cities have dropped out of DARE because they don't have any hard evidence, any numbers and statistics that say it really does any good. Well, I personally believe it does a lot of good. The statistics are not. And so I would want to be sure that the school board doesn't back away a couple of years from now from what the council has always thought was important. And to the degree that Chief Lee has mentioned that if you're going to have a DARE program, you got to have the right kind of officer. That at least helps me feel more comfortable that they're going to move forward with the right kind of thing.
And I will say that we will, council, mayor, and the police will continue to be invited to the DARE graduations, and we'll support DARE as much as we can from the PD side as well. Any further questions on org chart, kind of department overview? Moving on to page 122, talks a little bit about the score and accomplishments for 2013-2014, and most of these are attributed to Shelley and working with the finance committee up with SCORE in, I'm not sure if insisting, but certainly encouraging contracting with the SCORE folks up there. So there's some great accomplishments. We've seen basically the contracted beds go from little to probably averaging over 200. Our daily population has been reduced significantly from the 90s to the 110 down to the mid-50s. And just as a anecdote, when we had our first council meeting, I checked, the daily average was 49. On August 26th, it was 53 inmates, and today we're at 56 inmates as well. Or excuse me, August was 53, August 26th, and then 56 today. So again, fewer inmates. It's noted many times at the operations board, and I'm sure finance board as well, that we've gone from number 1 in average daily population with the 7 cities. Now we're number 3 with Renton and Federal Way leading the way. So very good accomplishments. And then the 2015-2016 goals is basically to continue the encouragement of, yes.
Chief, can you give us your opinion of why the inmates is lower than normal than last year and the previous years?
I would like to say this is normal.
What's normal?
The current average daily population. I think it's gone down. It's that's not me. Again, it's how they, I believe it's how the court is looking at inmates. Several years ago, many of the inmates were held in custody pending treatment, and there were 20 to 30, I think, on average that were held waiting treatment. Now they're working out some other option for them to get into treatment, whether they're released on home arrest or whatever. But they're released until pending an open spot rather than us incurring the cost on those. So we're still arresting people. We may not be arresting and taking to SCORE as many as we used to because the availability of the Auburn jail was close. It used to be where we would arrest shoplifters even when compliant, they'd come to the Auburn jail. Now, if they're compliant, we do take them outside of the establishment, issue them a ticket with a promise to appear, and so we're much our discretion on that is used better because it's about an hour, 20 minutes up, booking 20 minutes back, takes off an officer off the street.
So going from a municipal court system to a King County court system has reduced our funding significantly then?
I would say so, yes. With no change in how the system works as far as our interaction from the police department with the court and the results. So,
thank you. I appreciate your comment on that.
You bet. Again, just covering back 2015, 2016 objectives is to continue to look at contracting beds and, maintain the average daily population at current levels would be nice. Let's see. Next page is 123, and it just covers the department budget. Again, some of that revenue, I believe, from the contracted beds has reduced our estimate. And, I'll have Shelley speak to that.
SCORE anticipates to receive $9.2 million in 2014 from contract revenues. And with that, next year in 2015, they're going to cover the debt service payment, which is a little bit over a $1.5 million cost savings for the city in that year. And budgeted contract revenue for 2015 is $12 million. They're increasing their staffing to take care of 650 beds. This year they're at 550 beds. There is a cost, of course, to housing those inmates from other jurisdictions, but it's a percentage of the amount of revenue that we receive, and I would say is probably 20 to 30% of the revenue that we receive is the cost that is incurred to take care of them, to feed them, to house them, and many of the contracts, medical is added on. There's a medical piece to it also. So it's turning out to be, we're only going into our third full year of operation. So it's turning out to have been a positive thing for the city. And we hope that the debt situation, the paying the debt for the member cities or in the foreseeable future. However, we did budget it in 2016. But if revenues come in at $12 million next year, I, as they are predicting, I would anticipate that would be a cost that SCORE would pick up again in 2016.
Okay, we'll move to page 127. And this covers the General Police Department, 2013-2014 accomplishments. Again, we're constantly looking at different grants. This is received DUI enforcement grants to help out with patrols when we do emphasis patrols with regional agencies. We receive grant funding for sex offenders monitoring, where officers will come in, sign up, grab a packet, and go out, knock on doors, make sure everybody's where they're supposed to be. And then there's just a variety of other things that we've achieved over time. We participate in the auto theft program, where we assign a full-time detective to a regional auto theft task force. They've been having great results with that. Patrol division, trying to keep our Part 1 highest emergency calls under 4 minutes. We've been able to maintain that, 3.7 minutes. We're always reaching out to Greenery Community College and working closely with their security up there. I think last year was a great example of the partnership that we had when there was a serial robbery group that was really probably over 20 robberies reported and many more probably unreported. but working with Green River Community College and encouraging them to work with the victims that were there. With our police department, we were able to solve that with some great police work by your detectives with great technology, tracking devices, and I think there was a total of about 8 or 9 people arrested for that.
Question?
Answer.
On page 127 of the second to last bullet, second sentence, each week the analyst publishes a crime bulletin that outlines crime trends in the areas of burglary, auto theft, theft from vehicles. Is this something the council could get a copy of each week?
I'd have to take a look at it. It's an internal document that we put out so people coming in and off their days off can take a look at what's going on in their district as far as specific crime, suspect info. We couldn't release that, but, you know, certainly.
If there isn't anything proprietary to that,
you could certainly take a look at it.
I think it would be interesting for council members. I also have a question on page 124, Chief.
124?
Mm-hmm. This is dealing with 2015. You'll see on the last line there of item 2, reimbursed by SCAAP grant. What does that acronym mean?
I referred to Shelley on that.
I know what it is. I'm thinking for a moment here. It's a grant that they've received for housing, I believe, sexual offenders.
Is it out of HUD or something?
No.
No?
No. Oh. Undocumented inmates, that's it. It's undocumented reimbursement for housing undocumented inmates.
State Criminal Alien Assistance Program.
Right, thank you.
Good.
No good internet.
That's why there's an acronym for it.
I understand.
I was off on that.
Thank you.
Okay, moving to 128. Again, we've utilized some surveillance technology out in the field. TrackMole was introduced to help people track their property and try and get it back to them. And then training for the officers and sergeants, trained in a variety of things. 2015-16 objectives. Again, it was noted that on April 3rd and 4th, council retreat was one of the 2 high priorities by council to look at changing perceptions of downtown and Let's Go Park. And so both those first 2 address that. And we've been spending some time out in those areas, putting on people on bicycle patrols. And I think you've all in one committee or another have received a report from Assistant Chief Pearson on the results from that. We continue to do that through September, and we'll look forward to doing it till we can put a full-time bike unit out there.
Chief, a question on
Sure.
The second bullet point regarding officers becoming ambassadors downtown. Could you give us a little bit of insight what ambassador?
Well, I think a good example is our first bike officer was Assistant Chief Bill Pearson, and the direction that he had was from the chief at that time. I'm not saying that'll be the direction that I give the officers, but at that particular time, which was 1993, we had a full-time bike officer out there. Was, I don't care if, a quote from the chief then, I don't care if you make any arrests, I want every business person downtown to know your name and you to know their name. And so you develop that relationship. And that relationship is huge. And that continued on until 2007. We had bike officers assigned full-time through that period of time from 1993. We were up to 2 through 2007. And it was a great partnership. Many times the business owners would wait to see the officers, contact them, and it was very personable. And it was an ambassador from the city's point of view. We all rope it back into economic development. What better way to know that you have your own officer out there that you're going to see every day and build that relationship, and it was very successful. So.
Good. That's great. Thank you.
How do you deal with homeless camps?
We have when we get notified of one, our CRT officers work with code enforcement and try and determine, where it's at, if we can find it. When we do, we work with the property owners and try and talk to we don't try and talk. When we talk to the homeless to get them to move their camp, move their stuff along. Sometimes they clean it up. Other times, like recently out on 104th, they did, I believe, to some degree, move their stuff out to the street, and then code enforcement and CRT was able to get it removed, pickup truck or whatever. So we're constantly dealing with that issue.
What laws do you use to take action?
Well, we can trespass people from certain properties. That's usually the main law that we use.
I appreciate the partnership that we used during the removal of those people on 104th. They try to create their own little home,
Yep.
and if they have to move, sometimes they don't have the equipment to move it all, and so when you said just take what you need and we'll do the rest, and then the city and whoever got it cleaned up a couple of days later, I think it was a friendlier way to approach a real hard social issue where it became win-win, even though we had to pay or whatever for the removal of some of the stuff.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Question? Or actually statement. I noticed, Chief, in the 2013-2014 accomplishments and the 2015-2016, and objectives is, I don't see the Auburn Police Department Citizens Academy noted for credit. Is there a reason why it isn't on your accomplishments? That's what.
No, it's not. There's a lot of accomplishments that we don't necessarily put down there.
Yeah, but
so that's certainly one we could put down there.
That's very significant,
Sure.
I think.
Sure.
Since you've got 40 or 50 citizens, volunteering for that program.
Correct. Yep.
Thank you.
The very last bullet on the traffic school, could you explain how you're going to do that, the personnel requirements and everything else associated with that?
Well, it's a little. This is a goal we are starting to scratch the surface on. But Kent has a very good traffic safety school, and it's something that, again, it's in its infancy as far as using. If we model it somewhat like Kent, they use their traffic division to come in and teach courses in the evening, 1 or 2 days a week. That people can get their traffic tickets, if it's the first one, deferred or reduced. There is a cost to the police as far as the cost of the employee, but it is funded where the people pay to go to the school, and that money is brought back in to help pay for it. Now, I haven't talked to finance, but it works in Kent, and it's something that decide to put on there so we can take a look at it and try and see if we can't copy what they're doing, because it's very successful.
I would think it would be a good PR move also
Yes.
for some people who can't come up financially. It's a real hardship. That this would be nice, but it's also, it supports our citywide concept of education.
Mm-hmm.
When we do code enforcement, our first step is education, and this supports that education and that kinder and whatever approach. So I think that's a good idea, and I'm sure we'll be as successful as Kent.
I'm sure we will.
Yeah.
How do you handle your DUI traffic offenders? Do they go to a schooling? Are they recommended to go to one, or?
We as the law enforcement, we arrest them. They get booked into SCORE, and then the process is through the court. Any questions on the 2015-16 accomplishments? And noted the Citizens Academy on that. Next page.
I'd like to go back.
Sure.
2015-16 objectives. Kind of follows up on the homeless camp thing and on the emails that we got from people up on Big Hill about the problem that the police and the code enforcement cooperated on to solve. Seems like we ought to have an objective to do more of that solving with the whole system rather than just law enforcement or just code enforcement. And so I'd kind of like to see a bullet here that kind of speaks to that cooperation that you're doing that we need to do more of.
Okay. Certainly look at adding another bullet on that.
You know, I think some of that will hopefully happen in the future when we do the one-stop and we have a facility where we can get some multi-help in solving some of the individuals' problems. Though I did see on the news some major city back east has started a pool where community members can donate money, and they're buying some of the homeless a one-way ticket to somewhere else. So I would like to see us be a little more social in our application and try to do some problem solving, because I think that the position of our mayor and some of us on the council has always been we need a regional solution to this, and especially with as mobile as this population is.
Okay. Moving on to page 129, performance measures. And again, any questions on those three?
I got a question.
Sure.
Why do you want to stick with 4 minutes when you've been able to do it in 3.9, 3.9, 3.7? And I thought if you wanted to have a goal, you'd have a goal that would be a decreasing goal instead of a increasing goal.
I think 4 minutes is kind of the standard around, as far as trying to get to an emergency call below 4 minutes. And, you just never can tell, year in and year out. I mean, you betcha we've been very good, very successful at it. But I think 4 minutes is the benchmark that we want to stay under.
I would think there's a point of diminishing returns where the officer puts the public at risk trying to respond faster. And so you can never get there before the crime starts.
Spoken like an ex-police officer.
And moving on to page 130, just the department budget. Again, I think it's listed there on the board. 31, the significant increases are Valleycom Communication. We've seen a big increase there for the 15-16. Photo enforcement, we're still waiting on that to get going, but there's money plugged in to cover that. Alive and Free is now budgeted under the general fund instead of the drug fund, 117 fund. And it's not necessarily an increase to the general fund because it's $30,000, and I took $30,000 out of the SCORE inmate medical line item, which there was $50,000 in that covered in case we have to take somebody to the hospital before being booked into SCORE. That's on us, and we haven't been spending that. People have been going up, feeling good, and so I just moved that money out to cover Alive and Free. And then Police One and Lexipol subscriptions. Those are programs. Police One is an online training software program that officers go online and take a 5 to 10 minute test or training and then take a quick quiz. Much of the training, like bloodborne pathogens, can be accomplished this way, get credit through the state, and then when we do have our in-service training, we can take on other topics that are of interest to the officers. And then Lexipol is just changing our policy and procedure manual, updating that to a different program. So any questions on those?
Are you talking about, are you in the budget section now?
I
got a question on page 133.
Okay, we can go there.
Particularly on cell phone service. I noticed that in 2014 it's 1.7 million, but this this 2015, it's up 739,000. Can you
Well,
explain?
yeah, remember, that's under communications, so the big significant increase is actually the Valleycom budget.
The Valleycom portion.
The cell phone increase does increase some, I don't remember exactly what it is, but, 10,000, I would say, and that's because we're heading to the iPhones, or different updated phones for the officers. So the main increase is
Score.
Valleycom.
Valleycom.
Which is on the bottom of page 132. You'll see
Yeah.
items 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah. Okay. Page, oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Rich.
I have a question on the record specialist. As I read the description of what they're going to do, it didn't seem like I saw much about data analysis. Is your intention to do any increase in your data analysis?
Data analysis is handled by our crime analyst, and they'll take a look at any data or crime statistical analysis, and he's in charge of that. The record specialists are solely responsible for generating or doing warrant entries, clearing warrants, confirming protection orders, handling the police reports when the officers are done and turn them in. That's what they're responsible for.
How long have we had a data analyst?
A crime analyst we've had for 2 years now, I think. And it's the best thing that we've ever had. It was like driving a car at night without headlights without him. And he is an exceptional young man who has a lot of experience in that. He continues to look at new programs and develop different stats for us, analysis, identify burglary trends, works with the Valley, other Valley crime analysts, and so they're always sharing information. We get bulletins on who to look for, where they might
Kind of build on what Councilmember Pelosi mentioned about some of these internal reports about trends. I would encourage you to think about adding capability in the data analysis area so that some of the data could be scrubbed enough to be available to people other than internal. I think that would have value, not only for us, but for our citizens realizing that we track that kind of thing and do something about it.
Can I ask you a question? Data, when you say data, are you crime stats or number of reports handled? I mean, in our workload analysis every year, we do provide a lot of
But you probably
data.
don't take the code enforcement stuff and fold it in. You probably don't take
No, we
the
don't.
PRT stuff and fold it in. And saying
See,
all that
yeah.
data relates to public safety.
Yep.
And I think if you had more human beings to work on that available data,
Okay.
you could do a lot of different things. And like you said, this guy you've only had 2 years has done a lot of good.
He's done a lot of good.
I think if you tried to bring in the data from other than the police department, maybe under your coordination though, it would also pay big dividends.
Okay.
It's just like your police officer that you just got up there on Pig Hill. I'm not used to calling it that, but she's been sharing with the citizens up there with our email about how many break-ins,
That's correct.
all the stuff that's been going on there, and that's been very helpful
Yep.
for the citizens up there to know. So I think that that's what Bill and Rich are trying to say, for all of us to get those statistics so that we know what's going on.
Sure.
Yeah, and also so that when we do get calls, and we do get calls from citizens in areas where they do have crime and people wander around at night, that way we can at least, when we do get a call, we have something to discuss with them and listen what they're
Sure.
trying to convey to us.
Try and craft something
Just,
that bad. Of
not-
course, everybody here knows you can always call me and I can get you that data. But I'll do some thinking on that.
Yeah,
And I'll check with
like,
Joe and how we can
We're not
accomplish
trying to I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel, but you already have the analyst doing that
Yep.
weekly, so maybe we could build on that.
Sure.
What I've been using, which is now pretty dated, is I think this year we lost, because of the decrease in crime, the state enhancement of $180,000 or something we lost is,
It's back. It's back.
oh, well, that's
Yes.
nice to know that
Well-
our crime is back up so that we qualify for it.
Not really, not really. What happened is they changed the formula and how they were calculating it.
Okay.
And some of the jurisdictions changed to the new calculation format, and Auburn did, and a few others. And that put us in comparison with the other cities in a low crime stat. But when everybody was reporting in the same format,
Okay.
crime isn't up, it's just now that we're eligible for funding that we probably
How much
should-
did we get?
$150,000.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So, and it started on July 1 this year.
Okay.
Chief, on page 133, the item 1, dry cleaning services, that struck a question in my mind. How does the APD deal with uniforms within their department? I know that when I went in the military, I got a whole bunch of uniform material. How does that work for a new hire, and even a lateral? Or
Sure. What happens is we hire somebody tomorrow, and they come in, and first thing we do is we run them downstairs to a storage area where we have uniforms hanging, we have leather gear. We don't use the boots over, but we try and outfit as much as we can with an officer with the current uniforms that we have, and those are usually from officers that have been there, and then they leave. So what we can't find downstairs, then we head up to Bloomingthal's in Des Moines, and we outfit them with their entire uniform and order a vest. We don't try and put somebody into a vest that we have.
Sure.
Vests are only good for 5 years. And so that's how we outfit. Now, if when a uniform gets tethered, needs to be mended or replaced, certainly I take mine, get them mended as much as I can before getting a new one. Then they'll bring that torn uniform to their sergeant. They sign off on it, and they go to uniforms, Blumenthal's, and order a new shirt. That's normally how that.
So then basically it's a continuous uniform supply.
Correct, but that's under uniforms, under 22, I believe it is. But you're talking dry cleaning. Dry cleaning is something different. Dry cleaning is we take it to Frontier Cleaners. We bid that out.
Yeah.
We do have them sew on patches. They do some do some alterations and that type of thing.
I noticed $24,000 for cleaning is.
I've continued to move that down over the years because the authorization of officers to be able to wear jumpsuits 24/7, some utility.
It says that you moved money around.
I moved it to different areas where
Right.
we were short, but dry cleaning itself for uniforms, they need them for court. We don't allow jumpsuits for court, but most officers are wearing the jumpsuits, and they get 2 of those, and normally 2 of those a year, and they can wash those at home, and it's more cost effective.
Thank you.
More comfortable.
Thanks, Chief.
On page 137,
137.
under professional services at the bottom, red flex traffic lights, and now GATSO. What is GATSO next year?
That's GATSO, and that's still in the process
What is
as far as
That's the
photo enforcement.
Photo enforcement. That's the company that it's being looked at right now.
Yeah.
And why are they more expensive?
I think that's the initial bid. I'm not sure exactly. Do you know how that figure got in there?
The cost per camera is not, in fact, it's less than what it was with Redflex. And this is an estimate, but again, it's a cost-neutral contract, and it's dependent on how many cameras are installed and then any infraction revenues that are received. So it's cost-neutral. We don't receive the revenue. We don't pay the rent on the traffic system. So it's a placeholder in the budget for that, which may or may not need to be amended
Who on the staff is leading this project?
Ron Tiedemann, the IT
Good.
director.
I think it should be IT, yeah.
I guess I got a question on the same subject as, okay, we show 600,000 as a cost, but the revenue that's generated, where does that come into the budget at?
Well, the revenue that is generated will come in through the court.
Okay, so that's under the court, under legal or what?
Court fee?
Well, it'll be under the court revenues, the court
Okay.
revenues. If you look at our revenue, we'll show a line item for $600,000 in addition to whatever the other revenues we've estimated. So it's an in and an out net.
Because I know 600 is what we're going to pay out, but we're going to be also receiving money
Correct.
in, and so I
And we
wanted to make sure it's cost neutral all the way around.
Correct, and if we only receive 400,000, we'll be paying out 400,000 less the contemplated contract. There's a $5,000 a month credit for our cost and filing fees with the court and things like that.
On the police organizational chart on page 121, where is the photo enforcement guy? Or gal?
Photo enforcement falls under traffic.
Okay.
So a traffic officer will take some time each morning to
traffic.
monitor and approve the violations.
Okay.
Chief, I'm sorry if you've already said this, I may have missed it. Okay, we're looking at, on 137 again, last item on the bottom, professional services, Red Flex, 497,000. Gatso, what is that again?
That's the photo enforcement bill. That's the company that we're currently looking
Oh,
at.
we're currently looking at, okay, and, yeah, because I don't recall that coming to any committee yet.
It hasn't yet. The contract will come through once the work has been done by Ron and his team and
Okay,
Bob
okay.
and others that are looking
Okay,
at it. and then
thank
it'll
you
come through.
thanks for clarifying that.
And I'll just kind of brief over the rest of the line items. Really, the increases are ammunition. Ammunition has gone up significantly.
Yeah.
And so, and then training. Training is something that, is, since I've been your police chief, almost 4 years, 8 out of the 11 sergeants are new. 2 out of the 5 commanders are new. And so I'm really encouraging everybody to get through a certain training that's offered, and it's expensive. We have 60 or 77 total employees with less than 10 years on. That includes civilians. And then 44 with less than 5 years on. So you have a young department now, and trying to get some of the training that they need.
Where does training show up?
Yeah, I was just looking for that.
Trainings in each of the divisions. In miscellaneous is where most of it is. Under 200, 210,
What page are you on?
conferences. Well, let's say you can take page,
139.
there we go, 139. I can't read the page numbers here. Yeah, 139, we have conferences, and so, that covers K-9 conferences. And I move some money around, trying not to increase the budget, decrease it some places, and move some money into it. Emergency vehicle operations, every year we go up to the raceway and have emergency vehicle operations, both slow and pursuit.
How do you think you benchmark against other similar-sized police forces in terms of the percentage you spend on training?
I know from, I can't say with Kent or Renton, kind of use it as comparisons. I know we're way below, like Federal Way. They were very, very high years ago. But again, we are more than what we used to be. And we try and leverage every dollar and try and bring in-house as much training. Our 410 schedule allows us to have everybody work on a Friday, and therefore bring trainers in and offer in-service training, and so there's no cost to a lot of that. Much of this cost is outside training, whether you're sending somebody out to basic collision investigation offered by the State Patrol in Shelton. That's a 1-week course. Or basic homicide investigation, those types of courses.
I think we ought to do some benchmarking in that area. Watching what happened at Ferguson and other places where officers weren't trained. We need to be sure that we're in the top quartile of training. The other thing that kind of makes me think about that is, having been on the VRFA, the fire department board, financial committee, the amount of training those guys do is by percentage of budget way above what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I know it's important for them too, but I'm not sure it's any more important than it is for police.
Well, it's very important.
I'm encouraging you to think about whether you're doing it or not.
Okay. Thank you.
What is our position on cameras on our police officers that are out in the field in action?
We do. First of all, we do have cameras in all the patrol cars, and we have tested body cameras last fall, about a year ago, with our parking enforcement and officers. Sometimes they get into some people who aren't interested in getting a ticket, and so we will be looking at continuing that as far as maybe the traffic officers, those that don't have cameras on the bikes themselves, or the bike officers, those that make contact with people downtown.
That might be a goal, if we didn't list it as a goal, is to continue to look at how we can.
We're always doing that.
Yeah.
And it comes up a good point. After Ferguson, I'm looking online for the cameras, taking a look at that. I saw that they were given, 2 vendors gave them cameras, everybody 50 sets or whatever. So it's something that we continue to look at. Certainly the in-car cameras have been valuable in many, many instances. So,
Where are we doing our target practice? Are we still using the area that's, okay, are we looking, at one time when we met National League of Cities and we were back east, we talked to them about giving us some support for a more regional and highly developed, possibly underground target range. Have we gotten anywhere on that, or are we just still working for the initial design monies?
Yeah, we moved on. We had a possibility of a location, and that has changed. And so, I continue to talk to my partners, my chiefs in the valley. I know Kent, I believe, is looking for a bond to redo their police department and upgrade their indoor range. I'm not sure how much, or whether it's just ventilation because of the requirements with lead, which makes it very expensive. We continue to look at it, but it's an expensive prospect, and potentially someday maybe the valley gets together and does something like SCORE.
Okay, so it's still kind of.
I think it's going to need to be a public-private partnership. There's going to have to be a lot of players and cities involved in it.
Okay, thank you.
I'm glad you brought that up, because when we went out there, National Night Out, that was some of the biggest concerns of the people that we went to visit, is because their backyard was the gun range. And so I was just curious to find out what have we done, but you answered the question.
Their backyard is the.
Thank you.
And they brought some great points up, and the next range day, I know we'll have an invitation for council to show up and take a look at the range, and also identifying those people from the community there that were interested in just wanting to come take a look at it. I think that's a good neighbor thing. They're very interested in what goes on down there. They hear it, and they're very supportive of police. I think you agree with that, and I think we can do more and bring them down there and have them take a look. And so when they hear the bang, they know what's going on down there. We're not just making noise.
A question back on 139, under the 2014 budget, emergency medical supplies, animal control, and I didn't see that in 15 or 16, and has that been moved someplace else? I saw some other budget items for animal control.
Yeah, I think in that particular case, we didn't spend any money out of that, and so I didn't pull anything forward.
Need probably for the future.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question on 139 also. On the very last item of that page, the allocation for fleet, and I notice it's gone up $356,000. Can you explain?
I do know that we're due to receive, I think, 7 or 8 new vehicles next year, rotating out some old Crown Vics, or not Crown Vics, but some of the, yeah, I believe so. And so that may be part of it. Again, M&O does the replacement with all the vehicles, I think, throughout the city. So
Is that part of funding the pool as well for the replacement?
Right, we're adding vehicles, and we do have replacement funds in there for when a piece of equipment gets to the end of its life. But we added officers last year. We're contemplating adding more, and also with all the technology that we're putting in the vehicles now, that when we cycle them through and bring them on, there's additional technology that is required and needs to be purchased.
okay, those are the line items. Anybody have any questions on that? If not, we'll go to page 210. Those are program improvements. Again, I'm taking you through the small book, the little book, book 1, whatever you call it, first, and then we'll go to the other one.
Here we go.
So page 210, program improvement is for one new patrol car. And again, that's adding an additional car to the fleet. And that includes totally outfitted with co-band cameras, the computer, the laptop, everything. So that's that. 221, program improvement, is a record specialist. And adding one additional record specialist to the current police department.
211.
Excuse me, 211. Did I say 111? 221? Well, I'm trying to go look like this through my glasses. So. All right, 211. So one additional record specialist. They have not seen an increase in staff since 2004. And that is a very, very busy division with a high degree of liability. At night, many times they're operating with one specialist, and they can't. They can take a quick 10-minute break, but they definitely have to eat lunch in their area, and they need to be available to confirm warrants and protection orders. They're just a busy unit, and so that's the program improvement, to add one record specialist to that.
So you man that 24/7 over?
Correct. You, the council, and the city citizens, it's a full-service police department. We man that 24/7, and they do a great job.
So that office area, you can get in there 24/7?
The front lobby you can come into, but the screen will be down, and if you have a question, you're directed through writing on the wall to turn around and call on the red phone. We do have a red phone, and it calls Valleycom. And so they'll dispatch an officer if you have
So this is the main entrance off of Main, going there?
No.
Oh, that's the side.
The side
the side
entrance.
door.
Side door, yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So
What does
that's
the term hit
24/7.
mean?
It's a confirmation. Hit probably was a lingo for PD, yes, but it's a confirmation that it's a stolen or the person has a warrant. Any questions on that one?
Maybe I could add, it's critical because when the computer says the person has a warrant in the field, you have to call to verify. That's why there has to be a real person there to look, to make sure that it's still a valid and active warrant.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, someone gets booked that's innocent.
Or let go. If we don't, we'd let them go.
Either way is a bad thing.
Yes.
So you need a real person to do that.
You know, I'm surprised that it's only one person, especially since we are doing it for Pacific, Black Diamond, Alcona. And I know that we've been in need of this position for a long time. And I know we're not in the posture of wanting to increase the budget, but one person and is going to be enough?
One person will definitely give us staffing to be able to take a look and evaluate
Okay.
where we are. But, I
Because
think
I'm not in
they
support
definitely
of
need that
decreasing
position.
services to our region, because like our homeless, and like some of the rest of us, we shop all over. Well, people who get in trouble shop all over, and when we can help our small neighbors, it increases our effectiveness, but I'm not sure if one more is going to be enough.
So, council member, you're saying we're going to have two now.
No, one
No.
more.
Well, it says hire one additional.
Than what we have right now.
Bob,
Yeah.
how many do we have right
We
now?
have 8 record specialists and 2 supervisors.
So-
One additional would make 9.
Okay.
So
That's what we want to do.
the third shift, is that what you call it?
Graveyard,
Graveyard.
yes.
We'll only have one person?
No, they currently have one now, and our hopes
you'll
is
be
to
at
have
2.
2, yes.
Okay, so,
It's better not, yeah.
okay, I understand.
Still think we need more.
Moving on to page 212. And this is to fund a full-time bicycle officer to focus attention on the downtown corridor and Lescove.
Is that 24/7?
No.
What?
24/7 is 4.5 people. This is one person.
8 to 5?
Probably 11 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night.
So you're saying that it takes how many to cover a 24-hour period of time?
4.5
I think
or
the
5.
side of that, yeah.
Because you can't get a half.
Because they have to have 5 days a week, not 6 days a week.
People time
40
off.
hours, time
Yeah.
off, families.
Yeah.
And there's
Expensive.
okay. It's amazing. Thank you.
So again, the justification is there if anybody has any questions. Certainly they're dealing with, a lot of people that, both good and some in need.
Where are you going to put this new addition bicycles?
Downtown and
Bicycles?
Lesco.
Downtown Lesco.
Down in
Oh,
Lesco.
okay.
Yeah.
And we have one right now downtown?
We don't have an officer now, no.
I thought I'd seen
We've been
some.
utilizing.
We've been paying overtime to have somebody downtown and at the parks.
Okay.
As I said earlier, we did dedicate back in 1993 a full-time officer, and through the years, we were able to increase that to 2. And then in 2007, prior to annexation, or just prior to annexation, staffing-wise, we had to redirect staff. So now this will get
Great.
everybody here a full-time officer, and my hope is as we get people out of training and to add another one from current staff.
When will that be? Great.
Year.
I'm teasing. Quick.
Next year, 2015.
Chief, we have 6 districts in the
Correct.
city. And during the day, all those 6 districts are covered.
24/7 they're covered.
They're
Oh,
24/7.
24/7?
Yes, minimum staffing
Okay.
is 6 officers, 24/7.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet. And I would say that this bike officer is not part of minimum staffing. They're out there, just their duties are downtown and Let's Go Park in the downtown area, wherever they might be needed to be able to take a call.
And then, of course, if you need backup, then they'll come from the district to support.
Yes, like they do now.
A question on the number of contacts with mental health issues with
Right,
folks.
what page?
This is on page 212 in the narrative description of improvement. So it's the contact with people suffering from mental health-related issues has risen 34%, with the average in 14 being 38. What happens once the contact is made, and with the pending closures of the public health clinics, is that going to have a more significant impact on the services?
Well, currently, the hospital over here receives many of those people. Sometimes these, out of the 38 to 40 that we contact a month, Many are called in by citizens that say, hey, somebody just doesn't look right. We'll contact them and make sure they're not a danger to themselves or others. Others, people are in a crisis, which is more often, unfortunately than not, they're dealing with some issues of depression, suicide, maybe attempts, maybe a current attempt, and those are the people that the officers will get there and make a decision whether they're going to be involuntarily committed, and we order up an ambulance and take them to where they can be seen, or a voluntary. We try and encourage them if they are willing to go. And so those people as well will be transported by ambulance either over here or downtown Seattle, most of the time over here. So we do try and, meet some of those needs for them so they can get some help that they need.
But once they go through the hospital process, then they're released from the hospital. We just have to kind of maybe deal with it over and over again.
There are times, yes. It's not often, but once in a while we'll catch somebody who walks away, and then they call, and then we have to go find them downtown walking around, usually in the evening, and bring them back.
Yeah, it's just my emphasis again is just, as we know, it's just so important to have services other than PD that helps these situations out, and we're being forced out of that in some respects, so it's going to be a real problem for us in the future.
Yeah. Any further questions on that one? 213 adds a major crimes detective. We have not had an increase in major crimes for some time, and our caseload in Part 1 felony crimes, person crimes is what we call it, robbery, sex offenses, those types of calls have gone up 79% since 2005. We had a bad run in 2012 and 13. It's not looking like we're going to repeat that, which is great news. But certainly the caseload has increased, and we're going to add another detective to that particular division. I will say, just the support of the council. You all saw the Peasley Canyon case that was on the news, and could not be prouder of your detectives. The way they worked, it was I told the directors it was a CSI type of case where they did a phenomenal job in identifying the person through blood submitted to the state crime lab through CODIS, and worked with Pierce County. Pierce County even asked us to process the vehicle that left Peasley Canyon. High degree of confidence. And I guess you could say, unfortunately, a high degree of skill comes with a lot of work. But again, very, very competent detectives over there, and they're doing a great job, and getting some really good equipment, and just doing a great job for you.
And that's the importance that Deputy Mayor covered about training.
Yes, I like that.
If those detectives didn't have that forensic training, et cetera.
Right. Well, and again, it's it's not just PD. I mean, finance helps out with getting this stuff. I mean, giving everybody a plug here. But and Ron, IT folks, they're working. We have right now 2 test units that are not much bigger than this for fingerprints out in the field. They're testing them. You grab the person and stick their finger in there, voluntarily, of course. And within 2 minutes, they'll give you a hit so far that entered in King County APHIS. In 30 days, it's going to be the state of Washington. And they said within 60 to 90 days, 9 states will get a hit back. And so the technology was supposed to be here in the spring, and then I heard Kent was test piloting it, and I don't want to be behind Kent, so I called them APHIS up. And so they came right down and gave us 2, and we're due to get 7 more. So the officers are using that. And then, again, I didn't want to be behind Kent, so we found some money, and and worked with Ron, a facial recognition software program that is, quote, they say, advertised as military grade. Seattle got the grant, and Snow County, Seattle, South King 911, which is Pierce County, and Bellevue. And they get everything, it seems. And so then I saw Kent was involved, and I wanted to be involved in that, so I called them up. And so I found some money in our current budget, $17,000, I'm just letting you know. But we will be having that where it will take a partial shot of your face and then be able to 3D build the rest of the face. And it's great technology that we're very excited. And there's both Snow County Jail, King County Jail, SCORE, and Pierce County is dropping 10 years' worth of photos into the system. So it's not that, and again, it's gone through Seattle, the grant process, and Seattle's somewhat restrictive in wanting to make sure how we use technology. And so we just can't get a hit back that says, you know, this is Councilmember Pelosi. We need to be able to, okay.
Hey, easy.
Do you think the bill? Do you have to be a criminal to be in the system, or does it have all the rest of us in the system?
The idea is that it gives you. It doesn't. It's not enough for probable cause. We still need to get identify the person, and then get a photo montage, and then go show you to be able to identify to make the.
Does the system of the fingerprint system and the face recognition system work on people that are no longer alive? Like, if you found a person that had expired by the side of the road, could you use their finger and?
Well, oh yeah.
Works on the dead.
Yes,
huh?
yes.
Okay.
So anyway, there's great technology out there, and everybody here plays a role in that. So much appreciated.
So, Chief, now I know where Ron and Reba have been.
I don't.
Out
I won't comment to that.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay.
Don't say cooking.
Way to go, you guys.
We go to book number 2.
The big.
The big book. It's page 369. This is the special revenue funds, and this is from our 117 drug seizure fund.
What page was it again?
369.
You guys are doing a great job.
We've got some great people working for you.
Well, I also like the people, our leadership, when they're interviewed on TV, and we do an excellent, excellent job of looking as professional as we are, and that takes training and skill too. So I want to thank you for that public face that we have out there when those situations.
Kind of moved that around a little bit. Commander Herman has been our PIO, but Commander Stocker's jumping into that now. He's been rotated in there, and so he'll get polished up as well.
What are we, 360?
Kind of go over the 2013, 2014 accomplishments. Again, we have detectives assigned to both Tahoma Narcotics Task Force down in Tacoma and the DEA Task Force up in the airport. And both of those detectives work cases. We try and make sure that they are related to anything going on in the valley, so they don't get pulled away to other areas. And there's plenty to work in the entire valley, many in Kenton, Renton, all over.
Where does marijuana fit into this, or does it?
The feds, these are both DEA task forces, and so some of the marijuana investigations, they do not no longer take aggressive role, and many times they'll refer those back to the local jurisdictions. But I do know that the last briefing we had, they had a good marijuana case from the region and over in eastern Washington and tied to the Midwest that they were looking and had the U.S. Attorney very interested. So they haven't totally abandoned those types of investigations, but they're just more selective.
So there's no marijuana in this budget at all? Law enforcement? None?
Our law enforcement does not get marijuana in their budget, no.
No, I mean, you cover,
I would say there probably was some marijuana that was confiscated in the one bullet. It's just not mentioned, but probably when it was seized from methamphetamine seizure and heroin seizure, that it wasn't a targeted case just for marijuana. So anyway, those are the bullet points of what's going on with, again, the DEA HIDA task force at the airport. Again, I sent everybody a copy of the latest Colorado HIDA
Send it back east, yeah.
report, and so I'm involved with that. Our Special Investigations Unit is finally starting to take off. We were short one detective most of last year, and so therefore some of the cases and seizures were down, but we'll see that quickly change. Anytime anybody sends information on narcotics activity, we have a team of officers that if we can't build the case, we'll go out and knock on the door and try and voluntarily persuade our way to get in, and that works well. A lot of people allow us in, and yep. And then some of the accomplishments. Well, I guess that the van didn't get updated with technology, but anyway, those were the things in 2013, 2014. 2015-16 objectives is to continue to participate in both the DEA task forces. And then restore the drug sales arrests to the 2010-11 levels. And again, with 2 detectives in there now fully trained, we should be able to accomplish that.
A question on that. So maybe percentage-wise, what was the difference between 10 and 11 and 12 and 13 or 13 and 14?
I have to get back with you on that. Okay. I don't have that. Okay. It's a good question. I knew as soon as I read that you were going to somebody was going to come up with that one. But I can get that for you. And again, we continue to use camera surveillance when we can.
I have a question on that TNET $1.8 million of forfeiture. How is that distributed, or is it used totally within that organization?
It depends on if it's generated within the task force itself down there. If it's they come across, somebody calls and they start the case from scratch and they start doing it, the federal government, I believe, gets either 10 or 20%, and most of it comes back to the task force. But most of the time, it involves another task force, whether it's a tip from a California DEA office and anybody who has any tip. Maybe we follow down to Portland to do the arrests. They start putting in what they call DAGs. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but it's a DAG to get a portion of that seizure. And then under the federal system, it takes a long time for those seizures to go through. Sometimes I think years ago there was a marijuana hockey bag case that TNET did, and each agency, we weren't participants at the time, but received close to $1 million, $1.5 million in seizure. That's not the point. We make sure we tell our detectives and the supervisors there, asset seizures is nice, but the bottom line is getting a lot of dope off the street and putting people in jail. So I don't want to take up the whole time. Sorry here. So we can move 370, just kind of goes over the drug forfeiture budget. 371, the line items. Kind of goes through, I think the only thing of note in 2016, we're purchasing some ballistic helmets for the SWAT team. We need 6 of those. Those expire as well. Anything you have Kevlar in them. And so that bumps it up for 2016. And pretty much everything else stays relatively the same. And then moving to program improvements there, which would be page
Chief,
435. Yes.
don't get this wrong, you guys, but in our VFW monthly meetings, one of the giveaways that we have is one of these breathalyzer. Do you guys have any of that stuff to give away to citizens, or have any program?
To give away? No.
Bill,
No.
what is it you're talking
It's
about?
a breathalyzer.
The little
portable
ones.
Portable.
Yeah, there's general consumer breathalyzers that people can buy,
Yeah.
but ours are not for sale. They're used strictly for DUI enforcement. Page 435 is program improvement.
435.
And this is purchased with drug seizure fund, so it doesn't come out of the general fund. And it's the purchase of 20 patrol rifles. We currently have some rifles that are from GSA, the 1033 program. Many of those are stocks, the wood stocks, they break. And we're going to go ahead and replace those and assign them to a car. Right now, the officers are assigned a rifle. They put it in the trunk. We'd like to have a locking system. Had locks before in the trunks, but if you ever come over and take a look at what's in a trunk of a police car, I know Ron's folks can testify there's not much room back there, even for the spare tire, because there's so much stuff. So looking at purchasing rifles. And then on page 436, once again, using seized assets to purchase vests, ballistic vests for the SWAT officers on the team. And those, again, are heavier than what I'm currently wearing, but all Kevlar vests have a 5-year rotation. And so we do participate in a lot of grants, and we do have grant funding for a vest replacement. It doesn't cover everything, and that usually covers basically patrol until it's exhausted, and we use drug seizure fund each time to try and replace those, because we can relate the use of the vest for SWAT when they serve narcotic search warrant. And there's federal funds and state funds. Federal seized funds are less restrictive. State seized funds are more restrictive as far as used for narcotics enforcement only. And we can justify using those funds to purchase vests for the SWAT.
Do we get donated ex-military equipment to use with our police officers? You know, like armored vehicles? And
No, nothing's...
assault rifles from the who knows where, or...
Well, it's not donated. It's not donated. We belong to the GSA, and it's a 1033 program you can put in for equipment that comes up. We haven't for a long time. When we first formed the Valley SWAT team with the larger group, the Port of Seattle and Kent, we did get a V-150 armored vehicle and ballistic protection as far as getting close to a residence or whatever. I think we still have that in the fleet, and we do have some rifles. And a portion of those rifles we use only for honor guard. They're nice-looking rifles. They were able to polish them up. And others I've directed to have returned to GSA because they have a yearly accounting process. Obviously, they're weapons, and but some of them are just falling into having problems, so I want to get rid of them.
Chief Lee, where do our 6 officers get their training? The SWAT team get their training?
Valley SWAT, we have 6 officers assigned, like you said. Each agency has 6, and they have 2 training days a month, and they have trainers from the team itself. They have trainers that have been to many, many schools. Once a year, they'll bring in an outside trainer. We've had LAPD Los Angeles Police Department SWAT team comes in. We've had other groups like that come in and provide training. And so there's a National Tactical Officers Association that has a cadre of instructors that's available. Several of our Valley SWAT team members are part of that. They're very highly trained. They're Seattle's #1 back. If Seattle has an issue somewhere, then they'll call Valley SWAT to stand by. And I will say, much like many of your other folks, I failed to mention to the mayor, Jamie Seidel, commander, and 5 officers, part of our civil disturbance unit, part of the Valley team. We all donate resources, went to Bellevue today because some people were going to be protesting on I-90 about minimum wage. And so Bellevue was looking for assistance with that. So regionally, it's great that we participate in those. It's you save a lot of money when you have economies of scale and everybody donating a few people on
I
that.
just have to give our police force, our SWAT team, hooray, because I had the opportunity to see them at work. And I'm not too proud about it, of the neighborhood, but they went in there very quickly, very quietly, and apprehended the official, the perpetrator, and very little people knew about what took place. But our team went in there very professional, and I'm proud of our team. So that's why I was wondering, where do they get their training and everything, because they went in and out. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes. You're not getting away that easy. Does the APD still have those wheel lock equipment? I think they used to, didn't they, at one time?
Steering wheel. The steering wheel locks?
Yeah, steering wheel.
The club.
Yeah, the club.
Yes, we do have that.
And tell me how that works.
Well, it connects onto your...
No. How does a citizen get a hold of it?
a citizen can come into the police department and purchase it at cost. It's like $10 and...
Why couldn't we do that with the portable breathalyzer? The same thing.
No, they...
Hey, I want to quit on time.
But that might be more of a discussion point for your Muni Services Committee
Okay.
as opposed to a Budget Committee meeting.
No, okay,
Yeah,
fine.
Yeah.
that might be a good place for you to talk about it in there.
Yeah, it'd be good. Thank you. Okay, we'll do that.
So.
If nothing else, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Good job.
Thank you very much.
You still have all your hair.
It's the cul-de-sac. It's going.
Never heard it called that before.
I never have heard it called that. I think he's talking to me.
Yours is almost a through lane, though.
Yeah, mine's almost a through lane.
Or a bowling ball.
Largo said.
It's got a fancy
Well,
tile.
it's a through lane. So is Daryl.
Thanks, Daryl.
Which is the organizational chart of the department. There's 50 people in the department, same number as last year. We do have one new position, which is we have a park planning and development manager back that we had years ago and is back in the budget, in this year's budget, so it shows up in here, upper left. And so we have that position back, which is great because a lot of the new projects that are in here are at the park planning stages that you'll see along the way during this budget presentation. So we're happy to have that back. We have the same number of employees in all the other divisions that we've had in previous years. I'm going to go a little different route. If you want to go to the other slide a second, that would be, yeah. I think if we go from a really high level of how we're funded, we won't get into the detailed questions potentially quite as much. So if I could spend like 4 minutes on this. The majority of our funds are on that bottom, the red level, general fund tax supported. We want to mow what we own. We want to make sure the roofs are good of what we have. And those are 100% tax supported projects, things we have to do or either mandated by law or it's the right thing to do because everybody in the community benefits. The second group that we look at are all of our programs that the communities operate. They're a mix of user fees and taxes, your youth sports leagues, your late night programs, arts programs that people are paying for, but they're funded also somewhat by the general fund. And that's a huge portion of what we do. And in this budget, any of the increases that you see in expenditures are offset by increases in revenues for new programs. We found out that there was a dark time at the theater where we could run a teen theater camp. So you see an increase in the budget of $20,000 for theater camp. On the revenue side, there's an increase of $20,000 to assist on that end of it. And then the highest, the use that we do the least of, but is 100% funded by user fees, in fact more than 100%, is the private events. When we do birthday parties at a park or a group rents a picnic shelter, the personal use is the only benefit of that. The community is not really benefiting, but the individual renting the facility, like Game Farm Park soccer field rental, that's a private event, so we're charging more than the taxpayer paid for that service. So all of our things are like that. If you want to flip to the next slide. And we went through this with our entire department and classified their events and activities just to give them a barometer of how to fund their programs. So these are the core services, things I just talked about, essential to our public health and safety. Has a role with economic development because we want our town to look fresh and green. The flower plants along Main Street cost the city some money, but there's a benefit to having those. Next slide are the things we do and the things that we feel we should do. Late night programs, theater. We build a gym. It's crazy not to program the gym, so things like indoor playground. They might not pay 100% of their way, but they're good for our community to have. And then the final group are the nice to do, which I think we've done a lot of good things in the nice to do, where you can do your private birthday parties and such as that and get market rate for those things. So that's kind of how we balance out our services and how you're going to see in the budget today as well, all the events and activities, because we've broken our budget down into program area. You have your theater, you have your golf course, you have your recreation, your parks, your golf, your cemetery, your museum, your senior center. Everybody has their own budget, their own controls, and their own revenue centers as well. So this is all on the expenditure side today. If we want to go over to 150, that's the recreation division, which includes arts and events and recreation. The objectives for next year, 2015, 2016, is really, I think, a main focus for us is getting some energy for our youth and teens so that when the community center, teen center comes on board, we've laid all the groundwork for that so it opens with a real successful start. And that's going to be a real push for us, which means marketing at late night programs and doing all those things. So that's a real objective for us. And also looking for outside money to help operate the center, and also getting a good cadre of volunteers to keep our operating costs less after it's open. So that's a real focus in the rec division.
Comment.
Yeah.
On page 150, under Department Overview, I think that we ought to add another sentence to that, Daryl, and it would be continue to support the growth and operation of the Auburn International Farmers Market.
That's. I could note that, and okay. That budget is included in this budget. So
yeah,
it was just,
right. Thank you, Daryl.
Yep. And then under the arts division on the 151, that page, we're going to focus on downtown community events and economic development downtown with the oncoming Trek apartments and the new people living down here. We hope to expand our noon concert series a little bit and our evening operations at the theater to give those people something to do and keep downtown striving. You'll also see one of the only changes in the budget in arts and events is there's a $15,000 one-time request for next year, and that's to bring back the Vietnam Wall as part of the 50th year celebration of the Veterans Day parade and festivity. So 1 year you'll see a $15,000 budget increase, and then it goes away in 2016.
Well worth it.
Yeah. So increased marketing, doing such things as shows with a dining deal at the downtown restaurants, really trying to increase our visibility downtown and driving some economic development and also community building where these new neighbors get to know their neighbors, which makes for a better community. The museum and farm continue to increase their visibility at special events such as Hops and Crops Festival this weekend, and the farm is really kind of taking over the programming end of the museum because there's just a lot of people interested in that. The Senior Center, we just got on board this year with the Silver Sneakers program, which is a new revenue center through insurance providers to keep our seniors active and healthy there.
You're also doing NFL football, I see.
Yeah, one of the trips is down to Arizona with Seahawk tickets, and those obviously are the nice to do, the very top of the chart, just that everybody knows that that's a great way to meet another active senior, but those people are paying more than 100% of their freight.
Yeah, right. That's a great
Museum and
program.
Farm.
Yeah.
Have we talked to the school district anytime recently about them paying a bigger portion of the cost of those two functions?
I don't think we have, and we're having no trouble garnering support from outside of district for our functions there, but I don't think we've approached this school district again about adjusting their fee schedule.
The reason I'm thinking of it is the DARE program. We're trusting the school board to handle that one. It might be that we would trust them to handle some of this on these two issues too.
So I'd be happy to approach them.
They would pay more and do more.
Yeah, transportation became an issue, and perhaps it's being overcome now, but that'd be great.
Well, that's another question. Where in our objectives are we going to address transportation for all of these things?
For the program, programmatically, like for the new teen center?
For all, late night, new teen center, recreation, everything you got here needs usually some transportation.
I think what Rich is, Rich meets with the youth council, and the youth council, the kids want to be able to get to these incredible things. And if we don't have it in here, it might be a good growth area to begin to look at.
I think it'd be a great topic, because we really notice in our late nights when they're at Riverside, we get kids from there, and the ones from over here don't make it there, and vice versa.
So how can we include that as an objective without having to write it down under 15 different things?
But I'd say it'd be in the recreation division, and we could wordsmith something in there as an additional bullet.
I thought that the White River Museum was an entity unto itself, that we owned the property, but they were their own group.
It's more convoluted
Okay.
system than that. Basically, there's people who work for the museum that are city employees, and then there's people at the museum who are members of the Museum Society and are employees of the museum. So physically, the city maintains all of the farm, mows the grounds, takes care of it.
Okay.
And then tours and trips are, those revenues received through that go through the society, and then those revenues are used to help improve the farm. So it's kind of an internal service
It's a
of the
circle.
society.
Okay, thank you.
Also, council member,
Wait.
I forgot your name, that's why I just said council member. But when I was on the museum board, the way it worked was, there's an agreement between the Historical Society of 8 members, and the mayor appoints 9 members, so there's 17-member board. So that's the structure.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Phil.
Sure, council member.
And then on page 153, performance measures on 152, we continue to have increased participation, which is great. Some of our programs, if they're the free programs, the more you have participation, the more your actual costs are. And others are participatory, where they're paying their own fees. And our facility rentals continue to go upward. We can really see with the economy getting better. Our participation in summer camps and pay-for-play activities has definitely rebounded from where it was the last couple of years. On 153...
I'm sorry. I'm ahead of you, I'm sorry.
The increases in 153, that's from rolling the golf course into the general fund budget. So it's basically a take from the former, enterprise fund. And most of the other increases that you'll see are in interfund payments and salaries and wages, which are adjusted through the Parks Department, the Finance Department, and then the interfund services. So all of our other services are basically internal revenue versus expenses.
Daryl, can you explain that last one FTE, reclassified the government, et cetera?
Yeah, that was the position that was out of administration for years. Is that mic going to work? Oh, wow.
There you go.
This is the first time I didn't have a voice for radio. I'm kind of impressed. I needed a different mic. That position was formerly out of the mayor's office. Had nothing to do with the position that we had, but for years we had various employees doing park planning and development, Dan Scamperlina, Bob Utila, and those positions went away in the budget cuts, and now they're back. And the funding for that was taken from the position that was the government relations, which I believe now we're contracting those services out to a few other groups. So we kind of took the money that was left from that and hired Jamie, who did work for Kevin over in the planning group. So we're excited to have an environmental planner on our team to work in concert with our planning division as well.
Thank you.
You bet. Golf course division, even though it's part of the general fund, we do keep it separately, both accounting purposes and objectives, etc. So on 154, there's just a couple of projects in there under objectives, and they're almost all maintenance and safety related. You'll see the third bullet down is improve the water surface drainage along the path on the 11th hole. These are really small projects. They're $20,000 to $40,000 level. And drainage around some of the bunkers. This is just ongoing maintenance issues. When we get to program improvements, there are a couple in there that are a little more major that have to be accomplished as well. But we're really at a point at the golf course where our revenues and expenditures are offsetting each other. The debt has been removed from that fund, and so it's really working well. We've got some new equipment out there that the staff and myself are extremely appreciative of, and the product has never been better. So if we continue to make these small drainage and irrigation improvements, that's going to be a real positive thing for the community.
Get better roll.
How are we partnering with Costco on the social media marketing?
Oh, I should have brought that. This year around Father's Day, we had a program in like 6 local Costco's where there was one of the cardboard things you see where sometimes you see restaurants deals offered or other deals, and we had a thing going there. They selected one, well, we worked with them. They selected one golf course, which was ours, where you could get two tee times excluding carts for $49.99, I think the deal was. And then it basically wasn't a good deal for us if they were choosing the weekend time that we might have sold, but then we tried to put them into slow times, and it was a great visibility. We got a lot of them back, probably over 1,000. And it's not typically people that were at our course before. I asked our pro, are these people we've seen before? And predominantly it wasn't. It was people hearing about Auburn, good things happening, and so we got all of their electronic information now, and hopefully they become ongoing customers. Yeah, it was a really good find.
Daryl, on 2013-2014 accomplishments, second bullet from the top, replace or replaced? We've done that, haven't we?
It's done. It was resurfaced.
So we replaced it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll tell you the email system advertising the golf. I see that you're going to continue to work to expand that email. The quality of the ads and whatever they're incredible.
Yeah, and it's been real helpful. We're able to not do any print ads anymore. It's almost all electronic.
Right.
Yeah.
Under 2015-2016 objectives, the third bullet from the bottom, better utilize, and you guys have done a fantastic job, your staff out there utilizing media. And I know you can't address all types of media, but Twitter, isn't that you guys use that, don't you?
Yeah, Julie probably knows more about that end of it than I do, but we use Twitter and also the scanning the barcodes and almost any avenue we can.
You guys, I mean,
it's basically free, so that's what we're doing.
You guys are doing great, great promotion.
Daryl, this is kind of outside the box, but we have so much green space out there, it always makes me think there ought to be other things we could do there besides golf. Now, I don't think you want to have Pitpalooza there, but you've got such creative people. I'll bet there are some things we could do without damaging the course, without costing us too many rounds of play, but utilize that gorgeous green space for things other than golf.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've looked at it for special events as well, and we've seen other courses that have done like haunted events there for Halloween season. But the really one we're going to look closely at is happening at a lot of courses, a new sport called foot golf, and that's basically soccer, where soccer is being played on a golf course. Gold Mountain has it, Meadow Park, Foster, so all the area courses where basically you use a 5-gallon bucket as the hole, and you kick off with all the soccer players that are out there, and you basically play soccer at a golf course just off the side of the fairways, and people are making a lot of money at it.
Wow.
So we're going to look at it.
Kicking a soccer ball?
Kicking
or
a soccer
golf
ball. So it's a soccer ball
Wow.
called foot golf. Google it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cool,
Oh, what?
cool.
And there's a lot of soccer being played out there. But
Yeah, I did.
we're golf course first, but if you can fill gaps like you're saying for additional revenue and a new experience, that'll be the one that's going to be coming up. But I'd love to do more special events out there, like concert on the green or something.
Or haul in some snow and do some,
Oh, that 12 hill is
Special-
just built for a sled.
yeah. Well, I'm talking about special jump events.
Oh,
Okay.
I was going to. Okay, back to the budget. Going to page.
Brainstorming down here.
Have a zip line.
Okay, I'm only going to touch on the things that have relatively large changes here in the detailed budget. On page 157, this is in the community events budget. That would be Maya's budget, if you know it by face. And honestly, the faces behind these budgets are what make our department successful. We've got a good group of people, and Maya is one of them. There's a change under number 8, Downtown Art Sculpture Gallery. We've had that gallery program a couple of years, and there's never been the money in the budget to buy the piece. We've always kind of scrounged it out of somewhere. And so there is an artist award for the one that's selected as the best piece. So that puts, I think it's money to install that permanently in the city's collection and purchase the piece.
Great program.
And I think that'll attract more display people, as I think we really are going to buy one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've kind of had to cobble that program together. But we've had, as you state, Councilman, a lot of positive response to the sculpture gallery program. And as people move downtown, that's kind of what they want.
Well,
Item
in
2.
Pardon?
CDC is
Item 2, community support, sympathy, jeez, symphony. So what is our contribution to the symphony? You show various, how's that broken out?
It's $75,000, and it's in 4.
So the other 12,000 is for other various,
That's the regranting. That's the regranting program. We get revenues through King County for Culture, and then we regrant the expenditure out to various Auburn arts organizations,
okay, yeah,
be it the Poet Society
So-
or whoever.
the other 12.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
You bet.
the current symphony contract runs through 14 and 15 or 13 and 14?
14 and 15.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
So, yeah, that's a good, so 2016, we're estimating 87.
That money, well, it would be the 75 plus the 12.
Yeah, but
that
that's-
would be under separate contract.
Yeah,
So
right,
while
right.
it's recognized in the budget, but
So this is just an estimate?
It's a placeholder.
Yeah.
And remember, their fiscal year goes July 1 through June 30. So we're under contract through next June 30.
Okay, so that does go in, okay, I follow you.
all right.
Again, I really like the art that we have. In Chair Holman's committee, PCDC, we've been working with the planning department and on the idea of art and intrigue and things being nice on our streetscape, and this is wonderful. I'd also like us sometime to give consideration to going back to the texturing or
Patterning?
yes, that we did on some of those utility boxes. I haven't seen much vandalism of them, and they are just an extension of the intrigue and art.
Yeah, and that was a clean sweep project that we all kind of thought about, and
Yep.
it's been
They're great.
5 years, maybe more.
Great.
And you're right, they have not gotten vandalized. And often the panel right next to them, I noticed one on my drive back to Lesko the other day, had some vandalism on them, but the one that we did the public art on, or not even stenciling, has remained, I don't think how many have we done? Because of vandalism.
I mean, we've reviewed
Yeah.
a couple, just small pieces.
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
blocks.
We could expand
We
that.
got the rights to those designs to those artisans. So
Oh.
we could
Oh, we can. And it's your department that normally takes care of the arts it takes care of where we might be able to do some additional ones.
Yeah, we could work with the other city departments to
Yeah.
decide if we want to do that. It was
Yeah,
pretty low-cost
Okay,
program.
that's another meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've talked about
Yeah.
doing some additional ones out in other areas, out in other neighborhoods.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. And throughout all the budgets, and I won't stop, there's so more and more people using their credit cards. So you see a lot of bank transaction fee increases in the expenditure budgets. But that's across the whole city. And as we get more customers and more customers use credit cards, that fee goes up. But it may be something we want to continue to work with finance on. Not much we can do about that one. Yeah. Let me see here. And if you guys, while you went and found, I'm just kind of skipping pages unless I saw something of merit, but feel free to go in there. I'm all the way down on page.
On performing arts, the Auburn Performing Arts Center, it's being renovated, but
What page are you on?
I'm on page 158. Wouldn't you anticipate that after the renovations that our use and rental of it might go up? Or is it just a placeholder until we figure out what we're doing?
158.
158.
Center of the page.
Operating retail lease.
Middle of the page, Auburn Performing Arts Center rental.
What page?
158.
Right in the middle, operating rentals
Yeah,
and
the
leases.
16,000.
Yes.
And this year, they're moving the programs to Mountain View, or Riverside. Go ahead, Julie.
Some are at Riverside, some we just program at the theater, and so
Yes.
that rental piece won't change, but our programming at the Performing Arts Center has stayed pretty consistent, like 4 or 5 shows.
Okay.
Big shows, and so I think we'll continue
Okay,
that
great.
in the new space.
Okay. Thank you.
Hoping for one big show.
Yeah,
in
we had a goal of getting a first show there after it reopens. That would be a real name entertainer
Yeah.
that would draw the whole community into the new. Maybe do one less and double the money for a
Yes,
show or
okay.
something.
Yeah.
That project's a ways away yet. Yeah. The next whole set of budgets basically haven't changed from previous years. Our recreation services, around the bell programs, and Pee Wee Super Sports, all the things we do. They get adjusted a little bit of money here and there, but they're pretty much, you'll see a contracted instructor, and they'll basically operate the program. I'm skipping all the way down to 175 unless somebody has a question.
160.
Okay.
You're not getting to where you want to be there.
Oh, no,
I
I could talk about every page.
This is at the very top, other wages, item 2, farmer's market manager contract. One of the things one of the goals in the 2-year steering committee planning was to make sure or strive to have enough revenues to pay for the market manager. Looking at all this, I can't really tell how close we are in doing that. I know this year our vendors have increased significantly.
Right.
We got some other grant. Is it possible to provide a report that shows how close we are in covering that 35,000
It's very possible.
from
Fine assistant
revenue?
Julie just gave that, and this year,
And this is the grant.
so basically there was 19,400 in revenue, 15,000 from the grant. It's probably, I can supply this for you, since this is the revenue end and this is the expenditure end. It's
Yeah.
probably, I'm sorry. What,
Are we 75% yet?
probably,
Or
well, what's the?
1915 is 34,000,
Yeah, 34, and what's,
and position is
But,
35,000.
John, some of that has gone to promotion and other expenditures, so it's not directly labeled.
I'd say we're probably 75% self-supporting with it.
Oh, okay, that's
Yeah,
great.
it's doing great, and
Yeah.
it's more popularity every year, and I think the more
Excellent.
things we bring to
Yeah.
downtown.
The vendor, everybody should know, the vendor has gone up, and the board is considering increasing the vendor rent fee. We're lower than most markets.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, 170,
What,
or,
Mayor? What?
Well, fees, we have a fee schedule, so the,
They'll go through in December.
that would go through in December. It's not that the farmer's market board can make that decision.
No, I didn't say that, Mayor.
Okay, Bill, I'm just saying.
Well, I didn't say that. I know we got a fee schedule,
Okay.
and it's something the board has been discussing. Because, like I said, our goal is to get as high on the revenue as we can.
Got it, Bill. You had just made the comment that the board was looking at raising the fees, and so I just wanted to make sure.
Okay, the
That
board
is-
is looking at recommending a fee
Okay.
increase.
Perfect.
Thank you on that, Daryl.
Yeah, you're welcome. On page 161, under community events, that's Christy Pacharz's area. She does a lot of great events through the community. That's where you see the $15,000 for the Veterans Day 50th anniversary celebration. That's the one I mentioned earlier, one-time in funds for that program. And that's one of the areas that I'd say is between the nice to do and don't really have to do, but in our case, we're getting so many sponsors and so much participation that the events are almost self-supporting, and it's great visibility for our city. So we're doing, a lot of cities are looking to us, how are you actually making money on a festival? And it's actually possible. Yeah. On page...
I have a question on 164, real quick. This is insurance. Third item, travel, advertising, and insurance. Does the insurance allocation, would it cover the market volunteers?
Yeah, those are volunteers of
Okay.
the city, so they're
Yeah,
covered.
okay, thank you.
On page 175, that's the summer, there's one change in there of substance, and that's the, it's only $5,500. The Teen Theater Summer Camp program, a small amount, it has a revenue offsetting it. Most of the other programs after that are no changes from previous years. Now, the golf course is in here beginning on 186, so we can briefly take a look at that, just because it hasn't been in this fund before. The first page is on 186, that's the turf portion of the golf course. So Kevin Van manages the turf. He does a really good job. Since the left-hand column, 2014, you don't have those numbers because they were in the previous enterprise. I wrote them in here in case there's any questions. And so basically the only things in there are a couple of a fertilizer spreader replacement for $5,500, and then there's one of the requests for program improvements, GLF 0023. We'll go to that in a few minutes, but that's $65,000 each year. There's a it was built in 1968, so that's about a almost 50-year-old irrigation system out there. All the green boxes people see on a golf course that has to be replaced or we won't be able to water. So we have money in there the next 2 years to replace the irrigation boxes into a satellite control system that'll save us both water and a lot of time. So you'll see that also. Everything else at the golf course basically stays the same. The second section begins on page 190, and that's the portion of the pro shop. Chris Morris is our pro.
Now, you
And-
need a fertilizer spreader replacement both years, 15 and 16? Are you going to get two of them?
I'd have to check with that,
Okay,
but my
just
guess
curious.
is they're probably both small tools and
Okay.
equipment. I'm not sure they're both fertilizer spreaders.
Okay, great.
They could be on a course that large, yeah.
Yeah.
Then the second section on 190, that begins the pro shop.
Where's the pro on this 190? You said something about the pro?
Well, that's Chris Morris's budget begins with
Oh.
page 190. So
Oh,
that's your
yeah.
temporary front counter staff, your marshaling staff, items for resale in the pro shop, revenue in and out for greens fees, bank card processing.
Is the pro on salary?
Yes.
Is it in here?
No, I don't think the FTEs are on any of these, are they?
Oh,
Kelly?
okay.
Oh, no. You've got to go to that lead schedule for golf, which is way back. Page. We have a lead schedule for golf.
Yeah. Oh, the numbers? There's 6.
It's all rolled up in the department budget on page 153.
Yeah, so it's that.
What?
It's all rolled up in the department budget on page 153.
In other words, you can't see it.
There's 3 FTEs in the pro shop, and then seasonal workers, a head
Yeah.
pro, assistant pro, and then one other position that's vacant right now.
The FTEs are also listed on that page for golf, and there are 8 FTEs.
5 in turf and 3 in customer service.
On 3.8 million? Is that what you're referring to?
Why do we need an armored car? Can't we just?
On 153?
With armor and like.
Well, if you go to the middle of that page under golf FTEs,
Yeah,
Oh, yes,
can't, Daryl.
$37.
no, that's 37 FTEs in parks and 8 FTEs in the golf course.
Daryl, have you ever looked into having the carts have a bottle of sand and seed in there? Like some golf
Yeah.
courses have, and the people just pour it on there?
We looked at it when we replaced the third of the carts last year. We're going to look at it again this year, and some courses are successful with it, and some see a lot of waste and vandalism with it. So it's one that we're going to continue to weigh the benefits of having the player. If you're a courteous player, you love it because you take care of your own divots, and if you're thinking that you paid a greens fee and that's somebody else's job, it's not a good thing. So it's kind of a balancing act. But we're going to look at it with this next set of carts. It's an add-on to the cart fee, not a huge cost. It's like $40 a cart.
Okay, I was just
Yeah.
wondering if you've
No,
looked
well,
into it and the cost. And
Yeah,
Okay.
we did. And Club Car, the carts that we purchased from, they have that available.
FTEs.
Yeah.
It's almost 4 million.
All right, on program improvements, on page 201, that's the thing that I talked to about the Toro satellite control replacement program. So we'll do that with our own internal staff to save quite a bit of money on install. It's pulling miles and miles of wire and putting in these controls, super important. Obviously, irrigation at the golf course is really important.
Are you going to do that over the winter or
Yeah.
in the prime when everybody's out there?
No, it'll be a November to January project this year, or next year, and then the year after. And then our superintendent's going to be retiring after that, so we have to get it done.
So the irrigation water comes from,
Yeah, city water at the clubhouse.
not the river,
At the clubhouse, it's city water.
not the river.
River.
I know Wayne gets water from the river
Yeah.
for his,
5-gallon bucket.
for his green.
Any questions on general fund? That's kind of all of the programs. Granted, it's a broad program area, so it's kind of hard to do a budget presentation on, but hopefully that helped.
Perfect.
Good. We'll do the big book real quickly. I like little and big book. Was it fat and skinny? The fat book. On page 76, there's only a couple of projects we have in here. On the 328 fund, there's 2 master plans, both I think really important to the future of our park system and city. The first one's the Green River Park design. That's the 2 parcels we just received from the county and the state on the bend on 104th on the Green River. To master plan those 2 sites on page 76, to master plan those things, work with the community, the neighbors, on how can we best make that a real gem for Auburn versus the Blackberry Patch and kind of dangerous place it is now. So this will bring a consultant on board to work with parks and planning and figure out a good solution for that for everybody. The second one is one that came out of the Lescove Community Campus Committee group, which is to look at the whole Lescove campus and neighborhood, and now with the acquisition of the Her properties, to actually master plan that from Auburn Way towards the King County housing area, Grace Church to the railroad tracks, kind of that whole neighborhood regarding walkability, safety, lighting. What do we want it to look like in the next 6, 10, 20 years? So 2 master plans.
The committee actually asked to have that moved into the 2014 budget if possible, to move it up a couple of months.
Right. And the funding source is REIT, and the city has REIT funds available. So if Kevin and I just met the other day on getting this started before budget potentially. Oh, I have forgotten that. Thank you. Okay, so those are the 2 out of the 328 fund. Now you have to skip way back there to the Parks Municipal Construction Fund, page 379. And these funds come in from various sources, such as adult league play, rental fees, mitigation from park development, community. So a lot of sources, and every year we're able to basically replace 2 or 3 playgrounds out of our inventory of 34 parks and continue to maintain things. You can see on the top there what we did this past 2 years, some really great projects. Indian Tom Park and Veterans Park, Brandon, new playground, and we stretch our money as far as we can, working with the community. And then this next coming year out of this fund, a couple of things is a new playground we have proposed at Isaac Evans Park. It's one of the old wood ones, probably 30 years old. It's due to have a new playground, a very busy park. Hoping to partner with the Lions Club on a spray park up at Sunset Park, where the city would contribute 50% of the cost if they come through with the other 50%. That's a obviously growing community, a great park that has a restroom and concession. It's 10 years old. That's hard to believe that that park is 10 years old. So hopefully an improvement up there, but it's going to take community members coming up with a large source of the funds. We'll be looking for some grants as well. Some planning up at the Auburndale parks. There's 2 parks up there, one undeveloped and one that's developed but needs to be fixed up. There's a big drainage problem at Game Farm Park in the parking lot that whenever it rains, it fills up with 2 feet of water. We're going to try to work with Public Works on some viable solutions so that the parking lot is actually more usable for traffic. And then we did a master plan last year up at West Auburn Lake property, and we hope to work with volunteers and some city funds as well to actually implement some of the phases of the master plan, some blackberry eradication, some trail improvements, and some safety improvements in there. I think the only other one on page 405 is the cemetery. The enterprise fund for the cemetery. After, as we all know, we went through some tough times up there, but we're doing a lot better now. And having our Craig's up there doing a really good job in keeping the turf green. That's one of the issues we're trying to solve, is how to irrigate at a more cost-effective method so we don't have to make our cemetery golden. I was using brown, but golden just sounded better. And so it's budgeted to have an operating transfer in each of the next 2 years. I don't anticipate that. We hope not to have to use that. We didn't need it last year. We're trending the same this year, so it's going to be, I don't anticipate using it. Shelley and I have debates over this all the time. So it's programmed in here if we need it, but it's not anticipated. When we do the fees and charges manual in December, there will be a slight increase at the cemetery. Again, we didn't do any increase last year, so it's due. And I think we'll be able to continue to run a municipal cemetery without burdening the taxpayers with any cost. That's the goal. If not, we'll change our management style.
Good attitude.
Yeah. There you go. That's the end of Parks, Arts, Recreation, Golf, and Cemetery.